Welcome back to Worldview. It's been a busy week here covering the Balcombe, Sussex, England battle over fracking. Now, today's efforts continued to try and block that drilling site entrance, and a group of protesters actually parked a fire engine in front of the gate and chained themselves inside it. Whilst back in Westminster, Lord Howells, the Chancellor's father-in-law, attempted to clarify remarks he made earlier by saying he did not mean that desolation was in northeast England, rather in northwest England, which caused him to dig a further and even deeper hole. Well, today we wanted to dive into the science of fracking, and once again our good friend, the environmental journalist Robert Hunziker, joins us from Los Angeles to help us put a finer point on this. Robert Hunziker, welcome back to Worldview.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you very much. Good to be with you again.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. I wanted to have you on to talk about, first of all, the clear vindication you have gotten over the last week, with scientists universally saying this permafrost methane leakage threatens to cost 60 trillion US dollars and even threatens our existence at a faster rate and an unprecedented way than previously thought. Your two-part program of 2 weeks ago has generated a lot of views because it was quite well done. How does it feel to be right?
Well, absolutely spectacular. It feels great. And you know, that's interesting because Nature magazine carried that article about the $60 trillion cost for future infrastructure damage from climate change related weather patterns. And it's an economic time bomb, in their words. But you know, if you look at this and you think about numbers, we hear millions and hundreds of millions, and we hear billions and hundreds of billions, but a trillion is a huge number, and I think we lose perspective sometimes. Here's some perspective on 1 trillion. 1 trillion, if you were to put it on a clock, 1 trillion seconds is 31,546 years. So when we're talking about $60 trillion on a time scale, that's equivalent to 2 million years. These are big numbers.
And not only just in terms of the number, but in terms of the amount of money being spent. I mean, it's the gross domestic product of pretty much the entire world, if not, I don't even think it even comes close to that, does it?
I think it's about 70 trillion, so it's real close to it.
You know, there's pretty much all the money produced in the entire world, so it's a significant number.
There are a couple studies that have already been done. And those studies have indicated that the current cost ranged between $1.2 to $1.6 trillion. So if those are the current costs in today's world, 60 trillion could likely be low. They talked about 60 trillion over basically the century. I think it's quite low. I think it's very conservative.
Wow, it's a stunning number, really is. Let's go to fracking if we can, because we want to talk a little bit about methane. Aside from the carcinogens and, of course, the radiation and the chemicals that these wellheads fail at a huge rate and methane migrates into local drinking water supplies. I mean, if you look at what Duke University said last month, if you live within a mile of a wellhead site, basically your drinking water supply, your well underneath the water, is screwed. How are we prepared to drill with thousands of these wells being proposed and or drilled? What's going to happen to us?
Well, first off, the Duke study that you referred to was a bombshell report. You're absolutely right about that. They tested 141 wells, and they've been carrying on these tests for some years now. And I believe 82% of the wells showed abnormally high levels of methane. And as a matter of fact, the numbers were 28 milligrams per liter in a couple dozen of the wells, which is dramatically hazardous to anybody's health.
We were talking with the environmental journalist Robert Hunziker here on Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Robert, Professor Ingrafia from Cornell University has talked about these wellhead failures, saying that 6.5% of them fail right from the start, 60% of them fail within 20 years, and they all fail over time. And he said, why doesn't the industry fix this systemic problem? Because they can't. So now we have the pending death of a forest in Alberta because they can't stop tar sands oil from leaking. We've got this issue with the potential fracking wells. Why are we in this if each well also loses 40% of its productivity inside of a year?
The scandal here, in part, and we'll talk for a moment more directly about your question, but this is the legacy of the Bush-Cheney years, because we have something in this country called the Halliburton loophole. And essentially what they did is they eliminated, when they passed the Energy Policy Act in 2005, is they eliminated the Safe Water Drinking Act. They eliminated, that is, fracking from the Safe Water Drinking Act and from the EPA and from any kind of federal regulations whatsoever. So their legacy to us is, a rampant, unchecked fracking throughout the countryside. And so that's something that we and our grandchildren and children will all have to live with.
Well, it's interesting. You talk about it being all about money. 2 days ago, there was a breaking story, and I don't know if you've even seen it or not, but there was a homeowner or a person who was trying to become a homeowner in western Pennsylvania in the Marcellus Shale region. They were denied a mortgage by their bank because the bank refused to take on the risks associated with lending to them. Walk us through what that would mean to the whole game in terms of it being a real serious game changer. If the banks suddenly refused to lend to people, home values declined, and you had a real serious situation with people's biggest asset.
It all has to do with money. And what's happening in the United States is that America's politicians are almost to a person in the Congress, in the House of Representatives, in the U.S. Senate, behind America's energy independence, as is President Obama. And that's something that's they figure it's their crowning achievement. America produced 5 million barrels equivalent of oil per day 10 years ago. Today it's 7.5 million. It'll be up to 9 million within a couple of years. And they will soon be energy independent. It's all because of fracking. And so the country has gone crazy over this. The state of North Dakota now produces 10% of all of America's oil production. And they've got, I believe, 7,000 rigs there. The problem with the fracking also is that the depletion rate is very rapid, which means you must drill more and more and more wells and more fracs. From one well, they can do 12 fracs. So 12 of these horizontals that go out a mile or two into, and they're 1 or 2 miles deep as well. The amount of water that is required to produce from 12 fracs of one well is the equivalent of the water that 1.2 million people use per day. Think of that for a moment. Where do you get the water for this? And then the wastewater that comes back, where do you store it? There's so many problems associated with this, it boggles one's mind. But yet it's all about the money. And it's all about what? The influence of the energy industry in this country. How else would you have the only industry in America that is allowed to inject hazardous materials into the ground in areas where you have drinking water, is the oil and gas industry? Is that absurd or what? I've never heard of anything so crazy in my entire life. They're permitted to inject. What would happen if you or I went out and injected those? What do you think the city, state, or locals would do? They'd arrest you. This is bizarre.
Indeed it would. Hey, Robert, I want to thank you again for taking the time to help us out. As usual, you enlighten us all with this, and this is still going to be a big story for many, many years to come, I think.
And for our grandchildren and their grandchildren. This stuff is down in the ground, 1 to 2 miles down, and will it migrate into aquifers? It's already happened in Pavilion, Wyoming, so we know it can happen.
Thanks again. Robert Hunziker is a freelance writer for dozens of progressive publications, including our own UK Progressive. And his personal mission is to simplify the understanding of climate change through essays and articles based upon his research of the science. He helps us cut through the balancing act jargon to help us all understand the severity of these problems. You're watching Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Stay right here.